My name is Cynthia. I began this journey 2 years ago. I'm 39 years of age. I lost my husband on the 28th of March, 2021. It was a Monday. I can recall he has always had those life-ailing issues. He had cardiovascular. No, thank you. Thank you. He had cardiovascular issues. He had glaucoma. He was asthmatic. And we managed it for years. We spent everything we had on it. He was having medication. It was not like it was what we could manage. But that fateful day that he passed on, I can remember vividly that we were having a family time on that Monday evening. Yeah. I have 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. As at the time when he passed, I had an 8-month-old baby boy. So we're just bonding that evening. He wasn't sick at the time. We're just bonding, laughing. He was from Abraka, precisely in Delta State. And if you know the Urobos very well, they are not romantic people. So we just had our family time. I was relaxing on his chest. My husband, on a normal day, you see that putting of head in chest, it's not for him. It's an inside thing, not a public show. But when he allowed that, I was like, I should remain like this. My children are like, Daddy, we are happy and all that. So after that family bonding, I went inside to bathe my son. My kids were in the sitting room with him. At the time, we're not in our place of residence. We're at my mother-in-law's place. We were based in Warri at the time. So they were with him in the sitting room. I went to bathe my son. Bathing him, I came out to check on the kids. I had to put them to bed because school was the next day. I found out my husband had dozed off. I went inside to nurse my son so that he could sleep. It was at about that 9:10. Shortly after I went into the room, my husband walked in and he said, honey, all of you just abandoned me there. And I said, no, we didn't abandon you. I'm just breastfeeding Benny. When I'm done, I plan to come out. And I said, okay. And he lay down on the bed with me. Usually, because I'm trying to put the boy to bed, the lights were off, just the TV reflection in the room, so it was quite dark. And at the time, I happened to be, I'm into catering. So I bake cakes, I cook and all that. So I was discussing with him, telling him of a client that we lost that morning who passed on. And in that discussion, he just asked me, just like that, what happened that the woman died? And I explained to him. I said, she had CS. And she was just shouting and blah, 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 long story short. And that was the last thing I heard from him. And I was expecting a response. He was not responding. Next thing I heard was a fall. Immediately, I threw my son on the bed and I shouted, honey, honey. He didn't answer. I ran out. I didn't even have time to switch on the lights. So the light from the bathroom, I just was reflecting in the room. I went straight to him. I saw him was gasping for breath. He had this inhaler, which was on the bed. I took the inhaler. I was trying to infuse it into him. It wasn't working. Immediately, I started screaming. I ran, I took my anointing oil. put on him, praying. I was even confused. So my scream alerted my children, woke them up, and they saw their dad on the ground. I'm like, Mommy, what is happening? What's happening? I said, I don't know. Gigi is my first daughter. At the time, my first daughter was 12, the other one was 9, the other one was 8, and my baby 8 months. So I gave her the baby. I said, hold Benny. I went to the neighbor's place. I went to the house. I banged on the door. Mommy, 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 mommy. She was even frightened, thinking it was robbers because of the gravity of the knock. After some time, she came. Who is that? I said, Abel. Mommy, Abel. So she knew that. Everybody knew he had underlying health issues, but so she came out. By the time I ran down. So because of his illness, I practically became an auxiliary nurse. I was always checking his pulse. I was giving him medication. So like that, I checked he still had a pulse. But he was just lying down there. And it was on the big side. So we ran to go and call for help. The neighbors that were around at the time, the young, lanky guys, tried to lift him to the hospital. They couldn't. So we asked for more help. The security at the estate came. I was putting on a nightie. I wasn't even thinking, so I had to go and change into something. Told my children, go over to the neighbor's place, so we rushed him to the hospital. So on our way to the hospital, I called his mom because she went to her daughter's place at Asaba. I called her on the phone. I couldn't contain myself. I was crying. Mommy, Abel, Abel. And she was like, she couldn't hear what I was saying. So the guy driving took the phone and explained everything. We're going to the hospital. In the estates, if you are familiar with Warri, NNPC housing complex, they have a clinic there. So we got to the clinic. By the time we got to the emergency area, they said they couldn't bring him out, that he was big. Who were the people that put him into the vehicle to come and bring him out? That was another drama. They got security, they put him on the stretcher, we got there. By the time they did all those, their CPR and everything, he was already gone. And they're like, who is the relative here? I said I was the one. The doctor said, no, he doesn't want to talk to me. Is anybody with me? It was just that my neighbor that went with me. But I saw him. I said I needed to talk to him. What's the matter? He said before we got there, the husband had passed. And I was in shock. I couldn't just believe that the man I was talking to a few minutes ago, just like that, was gone. His corpse was on the ground. I sat close to it. I was just staring at it. And I was like, honey, just like that? Who did you leave Benny for? There was no response. And I saw his corpse turn blue. I was there, they tagged. And that because he didn't die in the hospital, I should call a relative who would deposit his corpse in the morgue. And he came in with soldiers and mopos that he couldn't just hold it. He needed to take him to the mortuary. They took him to the morgue. I went back home, went to break the news to my children. Unknowing to my children that they were praying on their own and seeking for healing for their dad. But it didn't happen. And that was where my journey began. I got back into the house, went back into the room where it all happened, and it was just like a movie. I was just pacing in and out of the room. So because I didn't have anybody at the time, they asked the nurse to accompany me so that she could pass the night with me, but I couldn't sleep. I was just awake, wondering, pondering, trying to just get a hold of myself. My kids were with me. The following morning, I'd called my parents at night to just tell them what was happening. So the following morning, my mother-in-law called me and she said, Cynthia, how are you? I said, I'm fine. How are the children? I said, they are fine. Have you called your parents? I said, yes, my mom is on her way. And I asked her, Mommy, when are you coming? And she told me, will my coming back bring back Abel back to life? I said, okay. My mom got in shortly. Friends, family, started trooping in. My mother-in-law came in 3 days after. Prior to that time, she had given instructions for them to move my husband's corpse from the hospital he was deposited to the village morgue without my permission. My mother-in-law's friend came and said, Cynthia, let me see your hand. And she checked my finger and she's like, oh, you have pulled the ring. So why didn't you give it to your sister? I didn't say one. I was looking at her. My family members attacked her and walked her out because she called my sister that she wants to deal with her, let her come out. Story short, I got back to Warri that day after the funeral. By the time I got there into the family house, because I was expected to stay there. So when I got back to the house, the welcome I got, the way they sized me from head to toe. As I was entering, I want to say, see, they want free, she don't want free. I want to say, I not kill her when my husband died alive. Now I go kill her. I want to say, brother first before husband. I want to say, now because say she born boy and I in the shaka, we go deal with her. I just walked straight because the sitting room, that's where my bed was. So I walked straight into my room. By the time I got there, my mom said, pack your things. When I no rent house, that's where you are going to now. I'm so glad and happy that I have a mother. So my mom was packing my things. 2 of the family members just came in and they were like, oh yeah, where you know say they go? Today where they bury your husband. And now you know say you won't come out, you suppose they this place. You know they think of how your mother-in-law they feel. Say they bury her son. So my mom didn't even say a word. My brother said, pack things and let us start going. And the human being that her friend that came to the funeral to cross the scene came back again and was raining insults on my mom. She did not train her well. You didn't train your children well. That was how this woman was abusing and all that. And my brother reminded her, if it were you that they told your daughter that after the funeral they would carry things out, would you allow your daughter to remain? And she said, who said that? My mother told her who the person that said it. And she said, okay. Even at that, it's not enough for her to leave. Fast forward, we went to the house. So by the time I got to my house, the house I left with my husband, I returned without him. I was having hallucinations and all that. They started sending my mom threat messages. She should bring me back to the house, if not. I told my mom, as far as they did not call you on phone, don't respond. Days later, we had to leave. Because according to, I'm Igbo, Delta Igbo. According to our tradition, I was supposed to leave immediately to my parents' place. But I just had to pick some of my things, my baby's clothes, my children's clothes, and we left, hoping to come back. I gave my key to my neighbor that in case of any emergency or anything, I would call her. A few weeks later, she called me and told me that my mother-in-law, her siblings came and they had changed the lock. And as she went to the house and she saw somebody cleaning, and she was asking, what happened? Where are her things? He said that they asked him to burn them. So that she sent somebody to my father's house, declining that I should come to Warri, I should come and beg her. And that if not, she gives me 3 months. That I will not survive. I cannot do without her. And that the children belongs to her, not to me. That what's holding 2 of us is no more. So my mom told the lady, oh, she sent you to this place. They had to use her 2 legs to come here and tell the message. The one she did in Warri, I condoned it because I was in her house. As far as we are concerned, the mother is the primary guardian of the children. She said then that she had plans to take my children abroad, that she cannot even take care of them. She will share them. I said if it means me to hawk or sell Gary or drink Gary as far as I'm with my children. They went ahead I went to try to get the death certificate of my husband from the hospital, and the cardiologist refused. She said the death certificate doesn't belong to me. It belongs to my mother-in-law.